Hi guys, Ryan Bailey here, bringing you episode number 9 of the Ball Talk podcast. In this episode, I was joined by Corofin and Galway footballer Gary Sice. I'd recommend sticking around for this one. We had a good chat about Gary's career and he picks his My 15 in the second half of the podcast. As always, the podcast is sponsored by Adapt Athletic Performance and Therapy. You can find them on Instagram at adapt_sligo. The link will be in the video description. Give the page a follow if you can. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Subscribe, like, share, all that stuff if you can, and let's get straight into it. Okay, this will be number 9 of the Ball Talk podcast. Today I'm here with Corofin man Gary Sice. Gary, what's the crack?
How are you, Reen? How's it going? Are you well?
I'm not too bad. How are you keeping during quarantine?
Yeah, it's going grand. Obviously, I'm missing the normal life and routine and stuff, but I'm after building a new house, so I had a long list of jobs I had to get done, and it's actually working out grand for me at the moment. So the weather's helping too, but yeah, it's been okay so far.
Yeah, you're kept well busy, so
very busy, block laying and messing and wheelbarrows going and the whole lot. So it's been grand. Yeah.
Oh, good stuff. So just for this podcast, as I was saying to you earlier, I've got a mix of questions that I've sort of done up myself and a few topics that I want to raise. And there's people sending questions as well. And we've got your My 15 selection at the end too. So we'll go straight into the first question, and it's to do with your Galway career. So you had, as you said there, 12-year intercounty career.
Yeah.
Do you miss it?
I do, and to be honest with you, I think the initial break from it, I've been very, very fortunate. I was going back to a very, very strong club, and the professional ethos and the way we did things at the club really just gave me a straight run back into a very, very good system. I think it's only when we stopped for the club for a few weeks I got a bit of a jolt and realised that okay, life is about to change a bit here. So obviously I went into county level and I was playing at a good level with Galway all the time as well, that we were training constantly. And I was going from county to club for probably 8 or 9 years. We got in a run there, and look, it's different. It is very, very different. And the big days of championship this time of the year now, when there should be championship going on, you do get a bit of a pang. You'd love another crack at Mayo. You'd love another crack at Roscommon and that. And there definitely is a loss. There definitely is a period of, I don't know if grieving the word, but you definitely do. You do get a massive sense of loss when you step away from it.
Yeah. And as you were saying there, like there's a selection of lads now, let's say over the last 10 or 12 years, Corofin lads, that you're doing so well, not just in the club, in the county championship, but then you go on to Connacht then, and it's a long year. And especially the years, let's say from 2015 onwards, that you've won 4 All-Irelands. How is your schedule there? Like it's obviously it's a hectic schedule. You're going from club. Are you going straight back into county? Did the county give you a few weeks there after the All-Ireland? Or?
Yeah, well, more or less. So I'll take 2015 as the marker. So I stepped away 2014 for half a season, and we ended up winning the Club All-Ireland in 2015 and on the back of that. So it worked out great for me. And then Kevin Walsh brought me back in. So let's say we won on Paddy's Day, and then he gave us 10 days. And obviously as a new manager, he wanted to get off on the right foot. So we took the Paddy's Day, I think it was a Tuesday. We had that week doing what we do. And then we were back in on the following Thursday and played Roscommon in the league in Roscommon. It teamed down rain. It was a real nice winter's day down there, really horrible. But in other years, we didn't really get a whole lot of a break. And I don't think, the thing is too, we lost 2 All-Ireland semi-finals in a row, 2008, 2009. Lost the Connacht final here and there as well. And you nearly want to get back on the horse. I think sitting and wallowing is not going to help. But there definitely was a very heavy schedule there for a period. Now, our club manager has been Kevin and Stephen Rochford were exceptional with us. The way they dealt with us, and the people we have around us are so good. They're monitoring our loads, they're monitoring our work rate, and even now as I've gotten older, they've tapered my training and brought my training to a level and peak and troughs and brought me to places where I needed to be at the right time of the year, not flogging me all year long. And even though I wasn't doing all the heavy stuff, I was doing the stuff that was right for what I needed to do. Yeah. And to be fair to the Galway side of it as well, over the last 2 years of my career, I didn't find it hard. I didn't find it heavy. The training was tailored and it was very, very good. So it's football at the end of the day. It's what we like to do. So I couldn't complain about what we've had over the last 5 or 6 years. But there definitely was a heavy schedule. It wouldn't be for everyone. I don't think everyone would enjoy it. Some lads needed more headspace away from it than I did, and that's okay too. It's very individual.
And as you're saying there with the tailored schedules, like so as you're saying, they might have you training differently compared to a lad who's 21 years of age or something like that. Do you think without that approach, you wouldn't have been able to do the inter-county and club thing at the same time?
I think to a point, because I stopped when I was 33, relatively old now at this stage in inter-county sessions, and I suppose most panels you're probably looking at 29, 30 downwards now. You're not looking at anyone above that. I think that's a mistake on behalf of most managements. I think what you're getting now with lads minding themselves so much, I think a guy who's 30, 31 and who's in really, really good shape is a huge asset to any team because of the experience he's going to have. And if he's learned anything at all about his career or his football, he's going to be a clutch player come the end of the game. He's going to be a guy who's going to make good decisions with the last 10 minutes of the game. He mightn't play the whole game for you, but he could be a guy who actually swings something for you in that. So I do think the management of me was key, and I do think that stepping away from inter-county when I did probably gave me 3 other years, maybe even 4 more years, 5 more years playing really high level club. And it was a good decision I made at the time, and I'm glad I made it. Obviously, I've had success since because of it, but I was very happy making the decision when I did.
And I think that approach. In speaking in sort of recent news with Kieran Fitzgerald recently announcing his retirement from club football as well, that's probably what's given him the extra few years too, that tailored approach.
Yeah, Fitzy's a machine. His training was phenomenal, and he'd said himself that he's learned so much over the years around what to do and what not to do. And I suppose he would have been a heavy trainer all the time. He just loves training. He loves training and loves making ground. He's always in good nick. But I think he trained smarter rather than harder over the last couple of years, and the result of that was he played in our final at 39, and he was up and down the field. He did everything he had to do and more. So I think he'd be a great template. He probably is a template for me at the moment, around what I'm doing. I'm 36 in November now, so I'd be bouncing off him. Now I'm very fortunate as well. I have a guy called Mike Homer. He's Velocity Fitness there in June. He's with Galway seniors at the moment. He's been with us for the last 10 years with Corofin, and he's a former Galway and Corofin player. He's been looking after my weight schedule since I'm about 20. So he's got every single bit of data I possibly need on myself. And then David Hanley is our physio, and another guy who's been looking after me for 10 or 11 years. So I've had consistency there. So every little knock and niggle I've got, if I go to the boys, they've probably seen it and they know too much, too little, stop squatting, start doing this, and just tailoring their approach for me. And I've been very, very fortunate to have these people around me. A little bit of luck here and there as well. I haven't had a whole lot of injury. So these things they all come together to give you hopefully a good performance when it comes down to it.
And as you're saying there, the player management side of stuff, it's probably, some people might say Corofin are just the best football team in the country, best fellas to kick points and block scores, but it's all that stuff from behind the scenes. And I'm going to ask you about Stephen Rochford. He came in the 2014-2015 All-Ireland that you won. What did Stephen bring that year that was different to kind of bring you to the next level?
He came to us in 2013, and we won a county final in 2013 and got beat by Castlebar in the Connacht semi-final, and we learned a harsh lesson that day. We were a good few points up and actually got beaten by a point or two, and they were coming strong. We didn't realise at the time, but they were coming, and they've been there since. I suppose he was an outside force, and he could just look at us for what we could bring to the panel, not who we were. There was no internal politics or no internal messing involved, and he brought a real level of professionalism to it, and brought a different aspect to our football and a different way of looking at it. And he's an exceptional guy to deal with, and he's played a big role in what we are and what we've done.
And obviously he's done it himself as a player with Crossmline and that too. But did he bring in terms of coaching or anything? Did he bring anything different? Maybe like goalkeeping coaches, sports psychologists, stuff like that.
No, everything we had was internal. Everything from our strength and conditioner to our physio to our facilitators or anybody, as you mentioned there, is doing any kind of mental stuff with us. Everybody was from Corofin.
Right.
We've had nobody from outside, only Roch, and he's as much Corofin now as anybody at this stage because he's been there with us and he's gone through the tough and the hard with us. So he just tweaked a few things we had. I think we had everything there, just hadn't got it all lined up the way it should be. I think when he came in, he had a different perspective on it, and he brought a real level of professionalism and accountability to it. And he went on then to do the same at Mayo, and he's now doing it all. They're making strides as well. So just a very, very good guy to deal with. And as I said, he's been a big factor in my own career, and he's been a big factor in the club.
100%. Let me see now. Okay, so actually, just coming on from that question, of course, Rochford went and got the Mayo job then, and as every club goes through managerial changes, whether it be 1 in 10 years or some clubs might go through 4 or 5. In that managerial change, on that sort of topic, is the Corofin team of the last, I'd say, 10, 15 years has been a player-driven team that you can allow the managerial change and still kind of go the same way?
Yeah, I suppose to a point. We've had a lot of player changes over the years. We've had a lot of player changes over 3 years. We've had new lads come in, the likes of Kieran Malloy and Dylan Wall, and these guys, they're not that old. They're 20, 21, 22. Dylan McHugh. These guys have come in and they've kind of freshened up the group, and we have a few more to come hopefully now as well. And I don't think that's been player driven. I just think it's been we've been very fortunate to get a good group together. Kevin O'Brien has been with us now for 7 years. He's been there. He was there as selector with Roch, and he continued on as manager after Roch left, which was a huge bonus for us because he could just continue on whatever it was we were, and also bring his own ideas to it as well. And again, a Corofin man. So we're very, very fortunate that way. Very fortunate to have a bit of continuity. As you said, there are some clubs, and ourselves as well, we've had a lot of change over the years, and sometimes continuity can be a fantastic thing. And we've been very fortunate with the guys we've had.
There's a sort of opinion some people have, and it's a topic of discussion, I suppose, that there should be more Corofin players in on the Galway panel. What's your stance on that?
Yeah, we've all heard that one, and it's an interesting one, but I think you have to be realistic about this and say that there's 2 different levels to it. Club is one level and intercounty is another, and some lads just don't want to go on to that level. And even when they do go on to that level, it is a different level. So in Galway, we've got an abundance of footballers all over the place. It's not like they're just in our club; they're everywhere. We've got an awful lot of talent coming through all the time. I do think if we hadn't have been as successful at the club, maybe more of our lads would have kicked on and played more with Galway. But some of them just, for whatever reason, didn't kick on and take over their spot in the county team. I don't think any of them are aggrieved or too put out by it. You see Ronan Steed this year, he came on there in the league, he played the first 3 league games. It's very unfortunate for him that he didn't get more time. He will when it goes back, but he's coming into his own out the moment the last 2 years, so he's going to be one to get his Galway jersey, and we have more coming as well. Hopefully that'll get in there. But as I said, I don't think anyone's too aggrieved, and it is 2 different levels. So it's an opinion more than a fact, I think, whether they should or not. It's up to yourself and what perspective you have on it. We don't get too caught up in it.
Yeah, exactly. And just, I was only looking at it today. 4 Irelands you've won with Corofin, and what, 11? Is it 11 county titles?
12.
12. Sorry, 12.
Yeah, they all count. They're hard got.
Yeah. Just as you're saying, they're hard got, and I know in the last year you had the draw with Mount Bellew, Moyla.
Last 2 years we had a draw with Tuam just the year gone, and the year before that with a draw at Mount Bellew. So these are very close rivals, and they've been coming strong. A lot of young players coming, and we've been on the trot for a while. So it's not that we took that for granted, but just they came with different game plans and they gave us plenty of it. But we managed to recover on the replays both times. So thank God. So yeah, the county title is a very special one. They're medals that I cherish massively in any collection. They're ones that I particularly cherish, and hopefully we'll get a crack at another 1 or 2 of them before I call a halt.
And some people will probably think that the county title mightn't mean as much to you because you're a thing that's synonymous with winning All Irelands now the last few years. That you're probably at the start of people probably think at the start of the year that Corofin have the All Ireland in mind. But do you still celebrate that county title when you win it?
Oh, massive. Yeah. Jesus, it's huge. It's a huge thing. It's a huge thing for us. It's everything really, because you get such tough games from tough rival teams. Like we've in the last 3 or 4 years, we've had really, really tough games in Galway, and it's only when we got out of Galway we started to kick on a bit. And they really are tough games, and as I said, not everyone has one, and they're very, very hard won. They're a special medal to have, and they're a great thing for our younger lads to be aspiring to get their hands on, because to be on top dog in Galway is a very, very, very special thing and a very hard thing to do.
I'm going to move on to the sort of quick fire questions that people have sent in.
Shoot.
So the first one is, and you can give two answers to this, or maybe it could be the same man for both. I'm going to ask you, who is the biggest joker on either the Corofin or Galway panel?
Biggest messer in the biggest messer in the Galway panel. Eamon Branning is up there as a messer anyway. He's an absolute joker altogether. Just a disaster. Corofin panel, you've got a couple of candidates. Dylan Wall is up there. Gizzy McGrath is up there. And Micheál Lundy is definitely up there. Any one of those three on a given day could cause you havoc. Could happen. So
would they be, to sort of lead on from that question, would they be meant to play pranks and stuff? Like, what would be the best prank now that you've seen?
We played a challenge game not so long ago, and it was a really cold evening, but for some reason a cat managed to get its way into the dressing room, kind of came in a window or something, and Gizzy went into the shower, and when he came back out, the cat had been positioned just inside his gear bag, and he managed to get himself onto the bus with the cat in the gear bag. So that's the worst I've seen. Yeah, that kind of stuff now. So that's just one of the, obviously it all fell into place lovely, but that's just one of the few things that happened lately that stand out a bit now, right?
And what happened to the cat then?
We eventually got the cat off the bus, but yeah, a bit of crack sure. No animals were harmed in this. It's all good.
The next question, you were saying how you're celebrating every county title. Someone asked, how hard do you go at it after you win the All-Ireland?
Well, yeah, we have a good run at it. We had a pretty good run at it now, all right. You'd have a couple of days, I suppose. You'd have a little break in between, and you might go at it again for another day or two. It's special time for the group, and special time to spend with those that have given us the time to go and do it. So it's not necessarily always spent with a big group of 40 lads together. We might head off with uncles and family, and I went for a couple of my brother and stuff, and yeah, it's just a very special time. But yeah, you have a fair old run of it, all right. It's a good time.
And do you stay in Dublin that night, or are you straight back home?
We stayed in Jordanstown, just outside Maynooth. So back there, a lot of supporters there. Thankfully, it was very, very good crack. Johnston House where we stayed, and then from there, then we came home, and pretty good day coming home now as well. Very good. Yeah, very good day coming home.
The next question, your favourite footballer growing up?
Favourite footballer growing up? I played as a defender until I was 25, 26, so I rarely looked up past midfield as to who I wanted to be or whatever. Sean Alderweireld was always up there. I always had him down as a stylish player, and the collar up, and he just looked the part. Like Tomas Mannion was another one I followed a lot. I just thought, he's just a wrecking ball. He was a real contender all the time. Probably Tomas O'Shea as well, to be honest with you. I think them two definitely that'll be in and around where I'd be looking. And after that, as I said, anyone after number 7, I wasn't really paying too much attention to them until I got a bit older. So them three big hitters for me. And
you're saying there, you were back up until 25, 26.
Yeah.
Did you play in the forward line at all, or was it just you were constantly continuously back?
No, so I played at cornerback for most of my Jarlath time, for most of secondary school. I won a Hogan Cup at cornerback. Played a little bit fullback as well. Then I ended up getting pushed out to the half back line with the club, and ended up making my debut with Galway. I played most of my time until 25, 26 at wing back with Galway. And then for 2008 or 9 season, the club pushed me up to number 10, and from there on, then I just kind of started ticking into gear. And Roch came on board then, and our game plan changed, our spaces changed a little, and it really kicked into gear for me at number 10. So I don't know, just a kind of I suppose a natural maturation of my career, and it pushed me on a little bit more, and something I really, really glad happened, because it's a different mentality. It's a nicer way of living life as a footballer, playing as a forward. There's no doubt about it. Playing as a cornerback is a lonely place when things are going on. Not anymore anyway.
And then that transition going from a defender to a forward, did you try and kind of model your game by watching forwards play, or did you just go with the flow of it, or how did that work?
There was a lot of learning, a lot of new learning in it, because I had spent a lot of my time facing the goal and tearing up the field on the end of attacks, whereas now I had to figure out how to change my runs, how to change where I was winning the ball, making sure that I wasn't finding myself back in the half-back line too often. And there was a fair bit of learning it, but I suppose someone like Paul Galvin or someone like Brian Dooher was probably what I was looking at for a lot of it, because them guys were getting on the end of 2 or 3 scores every game, but they seemed to do a lot of damage out in the middle of the field. And there was a lot of learning in it, I'll be honest with you, but a lot of good footballers around me, and that really helped, and a lot of good communication coming from people coaching me as well. And that was probably the key component of the whole lot, that people that were trying to help me to develop this youth we're talking about, and they were able to give me clear communications on what was expected from me.
The next question is, this could be the same answer as you said with your favourite player, but the biggest influence on your career?
Oh, my dad, by far. My dad has been there since, he coached me from under 5 up to maybe under 16s, and be it good or bad, you're going to hear it when you come home after a game, and it's always a good grounding thing to get, I'd say. I suppose from a coaching point of view as well, Frank Morris has had a huge effect on my career. He's been our underage coach here in the club since 1990 or before that, and basic skills and all that kind of stuff. He's just been a phenomenal guy to have, and Fitzy had a nice piece in his retirement statement about one, which was very, very fitting to have Frank mentioned in that. I've been very fortunate. I've come across some great coaches, but I think them two are probably the two biggest influences I've had that have been consistent throughout.
The next question then, I know I have a few of them here, but the next one is, for Galway to make that next step. Now, the Dubs are, the Dubs, as you know, they're a monster. But what do you think, as a man who's played, had a long career with Galway, what do you think Galway needs to make that next step to be in an All-Ireland semi-final team set?
I think we're getting there. I think this year, if things had been left alone and things hadn't gone the way they've gone, I think we definitely would be very, very close. I think going back to the Galway style was a big part of it. The last 3 or 4 years, from a Galway supporters' point of view, were probably frustrating, but they were definitely building blocks that were needed. And I think for the next 2 seasons or so, it's going to be very, very exciting where Galway are going. Yeah, so there was definitely building blocks needed, and the building blocks required everything that was required. Kevin Walsh did it, and he worked with the group he had, and he gave a lot of learnings to the guys that are there. And now Pádraig is coming in, he's bringing it from a different angle. But I think what they've learned before, and with the new information, they're going to be a fair animal to deal with. The athleticism, the power, the strength, and the just sheer football ability is going to come to the fore. I think they'll be a Croke Park team. I think the Super 8 model will suit them, and I wouldn't like to have to deal with them at full throttle in Croke Park. I think they're going to be a fair animal to deal with.
Because there are some massive footballers there, no question about it. Like, you look at Shane Walsh, he's probably one of the most naturally gifted footballers in the country. Yeah,
he is, and the big thing about Shane now is we're looking for consistency from him. Having played with him and been around him a lot, and he's a gent, an absolute brilliant guy. All I could ask for now is that he gives us a full season of what he is. I think he's maturing massively now with captaincy, and I think his skill base and his athleticism is just frightening. There's very, very few, if any, that can match him at the moment in the country. We just want to see him putting 6 games together. Let's see 6 championship games in a row, and if that happens, Galway are going to be very, very close to doing damage to anybody.
You mentioned the Super 8s there. The tier 1, tier 2 system was supposed to come in this year, but probably won't happen now for obvious reasons. What's your take on the tier 2 system? Do you think it's a good idea?
I suppose, sitting from a tier 1 county's point of view, I probably think it is. But I think if you're on the very, very edge, if you're on a rebuilding system there and you're down in Division 2 of the National League and you're in the bottom 2 or 3 of that, and you might be a traditional county, and all of a sudden you get jolted out of tier 1 into tier 2, it could be a long way to come back. It could take a lot of building. It could take a lot of time. The opportunity is probably there for traditional weaker counties to get up into tier 1 and to survive up there. I think there's good and bad points to it, but I think it could be a really, really good system. I think it could inspire some of those counties that have been in the middle for a long, long time to either cop onto themselves and drive on, or it might pull them back in. And you also might find 2 or 3 coming out of the woodwork that might just thrive in the system, playing against teams of their own, like for 2 or 3 seasons at a time, and all of a sudden they could improve massively and get pushed up into a tier 1 situation. there is also the real fear and real possibility that the Tier 1 could push on way further than it is now, ahead of all the weaker counties, and you could be left with massive gap between the two. And that's a unfortunately a harsh possibility, but with your population hubs and all the numbers in Dublin and not so much in Galway, maybe a little bit in Cork, and that's always going to be a strength that can't be matched by the weaker counties with less population. And no matter what tiers you have or what else you have in there, that's going to be the long and short of it, no matter what you do.
Big time, because it's the argument for and against. If someone's for it, they're obviously going to look at all the advantages that will bring. And personally now, I would be for it, because I think the football, the National League over the last probably 4 or 5 years, there's definitely more people watching it on telly, and it's getting more time on the telly. There's some great games coming out of it.
The games are brilliant because everything's even. Teams of alike are going against each other, and what you're getting 1 and 2 point victories for everybody. There's no hammerings in the league. Then you come to the summertime, and there's weeks upon weeks where there's just trouncings being handed out, and no one's watching it. After 25 minutes. It's over. So let's let it go and see what happens. But I do think you're going to get better games. I'd rather go to a Tier 2 game that's going to be tight than a Tier 1 game that's going to be hocking. There's no doubt about it. I'd love to see a 17 points to 16 points Tier 2 game than a 115 to 8 points hammered in a Super 8 game. There's no point in that. There's nothing to learn. There's no entertainment. Look, let's see what happens with it when we get back. And it's a nice experiment. I'm glad they're finally making a move towards it. I'm glad that they're trying to change it up and make it more even space for everyone.
100%. The last question now, before we go into your team selection, if you could change one rule in today's game, what rule would you change, or bring in a new one?
I'd get rid of the mark straight away.
The inside mark.
Yeah, it has to go. I think before we even trial it in Championship, it's just, I've watched back a few games over just out of boredom during this COVID-19 crack, and some of the games were class. And as you're watching them, and there's some brilliant scores where a ball has been kicked diagonally across, it's hit a corner forward on the chest, and he's managed to flick a hand pass to the runner. That hand pass won't exist in today's game, and if you let that go for a season or two, your nippy corner forward won't exist anymore. Your little Magista, your little Leanbergs, your Gooch type footballers, they won't exist in the game because there won't be a necessity for them. I just think we're probably 5 years too late bringing that rule in. I think that should have been in maybe 5 years ago when the blanket defence was rife and everyone was trying to do a blanket defence. That would have been a really, really good reaction. And now it's 5 years too late. I think it's going to make a right mess of the game. And you could end up getting a game of just fouling the ball in top of each other in club games too. It's going to make a real mess of it. What does the referee do now in a club game? Like, he's going to have his hands full about the mark. And even the games where in the National League, the hand signals and the communication between referee and players for marks was poor. There was a lot of situations where the referee didn't know whether it was being marked or not. There was one in the Galway game, Galway game, where the player actually called mark but didn't have a hand signal. And that's fine, you're allowed to do that. And the referee blew him up for steps. So he stood to take his mark, got blown up. And I think Galway won by a point. Could easily have got beaten because of it. But that happens in championship games to be carnage. And as I said, whatever going into county where you've got everything going for you, how are you going to manage that in a club game? I just do not know. So
definitely, because you know yourself, referees come under enough criticism as it is.
Well, it's a terrible job. Terrible job. Who wants to do it?
You bring in a rule like that. It's in a club game. Say, like referees. I don't think it's. Some people say the referees aren't great, but the amount of abuse they get, it is.
They're doing the best they can, and let's be honest. What I'd like to see happening is that the umpires and linesmen become more accountable and be allowed to influence the game. That they actually can flag a problem or flag something that has happened, or call attention to something that's going on or off the ball. They don't do that anymore. They're just there. There are referees standing in the middle of the field. He gets no help, and whatever decision he can make on his own, maybe 2 referees could be helpful.
Yeah, I've heard that people kind of proposing that before.
Yeah, 2 umpires and 2 referees instead of a rock. That could be the way to go, but definitely not the way they're changing the rules at the moment with the mark and stuff. It's not for me.
Definitely, because I think it was 2 years ago now, Sligo played Roscommon. It was an FBD League game. We went up to it in Hyde Park, and they were kind of trialling the inside mark rule then, and they were trialling this 3 hand pass limit thing as well. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And if you we watched the referee for about 30 seconds, and it was just pure carnage. You know, fellas, there'd be 3 hand passes, and fellas no further than me to you away on the screen and kick passing about to each other.
Yeah. It just didn't make sense, and I think I'd love to know what their long game is on this, like, and what they're looking for. Like, we're teeing up Aussie rules scouts to come over and take players.
100%.
Like, and again, as I said, you're under 12, you're under 14 or 16 manager is going to start profiling kids based on their size now, not based on what they can do football ability. Because if he's a big monkey, he can play corner forward now. We can kick it in top. You might end up losing some of your best ball players because they're just not big enough to play what this is perceived now to be. Like, if you go back 5 years, go back to take Conor Callahan as your player. He can kick it in long term, but you want to see a ball bounce in front of him. If he gets it in front of him, it's game on. Is he really going to take you on anymore if he thinks he can just get a soft mark? I don't think so. And that's very sad for the game. I don't think it'll be a good change at all. I think the tricky corner forward and a really good full forward returns and goals with his man is an exciting part of the game, and I don't want that to change. I don't want that to go away. Not
100%. It'll get rid, to sum it up, it'll get rid of free flowing game and just all stop starting, as I said.
Yeah, your half forward line breaking through and smashing the ball from 13 yards in the top corner mightn't happen anymore. Exactly. You could be looking at just a game of freeze, which is not what we want. Definitely not.
Definitely. So look, that's all the questions wrapped up, and thanks to everyone who sent in the questions. And we'll move on to the 15 now. So for anyone who hasn't seen the podcast so far, I asked Gary there the other day, as I've done over the last number of weeks, to make 15 of the best players that you've played with, whether that be at club level, county level, colleges, railway cups, international rules, they all count in it. The only rule apart from that is that you have to be in the team yourself. But Barry John came in and accepted for himself last week. He stuck himself on the bench. But we'll start off now, Gary. We'll start off with where you put yourself in the site.
Yeah, I put myself at number 10. So I think over the last maybe 8 or 9 years where I played the best football, it's probably where I've made a bit of a name for myself. I've done all right, and it's probably where I've enjoyed a lot of my football, both with Galway and Corofin over the last 8 or 9 years. So I stuck myself in there, and in hindsight, if I got a chance at it again, I'd probably do what Barry John did and throw myself over because I've played with better number 10s. But just for this evening, we'll leave myself there and see how we get on.
Spot on. And back to the number 1 spot then.
We have Bernard Power. So I've played with Bernard now for quite a while. Bernard came onto the senior panel in 2007 or 8. A huge man in the goal, huge kick-out possibilities, big game player, in fairness to him. He's been on and off the Galway team, but when he did play with Galway, he played there in 2015. We beat Mayo after a 5-year gap down in Castlebar. He had a really, really good evening that evening, and he's been very, very, very important for us in the club over the last couple of years around his kickouts and his distribution. So definitely had to put him in there, and hopefully he can continue his form for us now when we go back to the real life again. And
I was actually going to ask you how important is he to the team, but you've summed it up pretty well there.
Yeah. His ball distribution is good. He played a lot of football out the field, and in his own head he's number 14 or number 11, but we leave him where he is for now. Very confident on the ball, very competent, and he can kick a pass. He hit one 70 or 80 yards in one of the All-Irelands in Croke Park to Jason Linnard on the run, no problem. So as I said, a big game mentality, just kind of goes out and does it in one panic, which is what you want in a keeper.
I think, did he send one to you one time? Was it
Alan Tugger?
In Castlebar.
Yeah, an absolute bomb. I'd say with about 75, 80 yards. Just he has that in the locker, and he's able to pick out these passes. So yeah, as I said, he's been a key component to us, and I had to put him in there for
it's an essential part of a goalkeeper's game now, that they have that vision and that ability to, that they know what it's like to play outfield, so they know what, say, you're thinking when you were making that turn for that run and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, Bernie plays a lot of sevens, and he won an All-Ireland sevens last year in Kilmacud from goal. I don't know, did he get 111 or 112 in the competition from keeper. So that's what you're dealing with. Yeah. So he's very confident out the field, and I'd say, as I said, in his head he's playing number 11, not number 1. So it's a good mentality to have when we're playing ball like that.
100%. Your full back line then, I'll let you name the 2, 3 and 4.
So I have Mike Comer, I have Kieran Fitzgerald, and I have Alan Burke. So all of these 3 guys who played with Galway, Mike and Fitz both have All-Ireland medals in 2001, and Alan has quite an array of medals as well. I think he has 10 counties. He has definitely 3 All-Irelands. He has Hogan Cups, under 21 All-Irelands. He's a fair pocket of them as well. So I'll start with Mike. Mike played, he was a sub number 17 or 18 in 2001 with Galway, and he played continuously up until 2015 with Corofin at cornerback. was probably one of the best cornerbacks in the country. At his time when Alan Brogan was coming up, Mike Comer was the man who picked up Alan Brogan on the 21 final and ate him alive. And then Mike went on to play at 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, I think, with Galway, and had a very good career, and then pushed on with us as well. And did his cruciate actually in Leitrim, Connacht semi-final, the year we won the All-Ireland in 2014. So he missed out for a bit and came on in Croke Park, thankfully. So a massive footballer, and he's been my strength and conditioner for the last 12, 13 years now at this stage. So not only was he brilliant on the field, he was way ahead of his time around his condition himself and the way he minded himself. So a huge influence on our club and a huge influence on me personally, but also a damn good footballer in his day. Right, good footballer.
Spot on.
Yep. Fitzy needs no introduction, I think, at this stage.
Definitely.
An absolute icon in the club, and an All-Ireland medal with Galway as well. Distinguished career with Galway, played every game to his last, and has the record of county medals in Galway at the moment, and has his 4 All-Irelands as well, and just an absolute legend in every single way, on off the field, and a monster in around the box in there. It's just what you want. Old school fullback that can run. So scary thought.
Yeah. Oh, monster of a man.
Yeah, and the last guy in is Alan Burke. Alan probably could have played number 13 or number 4. He could have played number 2 or number 15, no problem. Total footballer in every way. He picked up Declan Sullivan in a Home Cup semi-final and ate him alive. And the following year, we played on number 11 for Corofin. So that's what you're dealing with. Yeah, huge athlete. Played with Galway for probably 10 years, I think. Everywhere from 2, 3, 4, 6, everywhere as well. And played with Corofin in multiple positions. But I put him at 4 to squeeze in 1 or 2 more. But I played with Alan since I'm 5. We started together, and we've played in every single grade the whole way up, Galway and Corofin and Jardats, and just one of the better footballers, probably one of the best footballers I've ever played with.
Geez, that's a massive asset to have as well. Like that you can kick points, you can block them as well. Like as you said there, you put him in corner back, he'll come up in the last minute of a game and kick the point for you to win it.
And has done, and goals, and probably one of the best finishers. I think most of the goalkeepers in Corofin will tell you if you're going to win with Alan Burke, which is no chance. So cool, so calm, so collected, excellent soccer player. Just a huge athlete, just a sportsman of every kind, and said he never, if ever, left us down in any position he played in. Always an 8 or 10 player, and what more can you say about someone only good things like that?
Massive. 5, 6, and 7 then, Gary.
Yeah, not a bad half back line. We'll start with this man. I don't know if everyone will know him, but we've heard of him, Declan Meehan. So when I went into the Galway panel first, there was a few guys in particular who put their arm around me and gave me a hand at 19, and Decky was one of them. Decky was winning sprints, probably pulling up with 20 yards to go. He was just a machine, and he was tearing into tackles like there's no tomorrow. He wasn't a big guy by any means, but he was just made of teak, and he just loved the contest and loved the battle. And then if you got up the field 9 times out of 10, he was looking for a score. So I think no more than Sean Ogle in my eyes, when I got to see Decky up close, I realised, okay, the level is changed here. This is what we're after now. Just a super footballer, and went on and got us All-Ireland, and he was just a fantastic player. And then we had loads of battles in the club as well. He played with Caltra, and then they got their All-Ireland club as well. So brilliant fella, brilliant footballer, and a huge role model for me when I was in around the Galway panel.
Spot on.
Yeah. The next guy is Liam Silk, another guy I don't think at this stage needs much of an introduction. Player of the year a couple of years ago, 4 All-Irelands. He's now driving on with Galway. Was getting marking jobs, but I know he's turned it on its head, and he started to take, even from corner back now, he started to look at it as an attacking option. Huge athlete, huge machine, a highly intelligent footballer, and I think he's only going to go from strength to strength when we get back on the field. Still only 25, has a lot of football play, but probably the worst person I've had to mark, I think. Just a nightmare to deal with. He's trying to score you, so you're trying to bring him in towards the goal, and he's thinking 1-1. It's an awful feeling, and the worst thing is he can get up the field and get back, and you're just trotting after him trying to get up with him. He's just a machine. And as I said, he's gone from strength to strength over the last while, and I'm excited to see his development over the next few years. He's going to be one of the best ones we've had for sure, both Galway and Corofin. And
would he be a similar sort of playing style to Alan Burke, as you said there?
Yeah, Alan, to be honest with you, skill-wise, I think Alan's probably better. But as far as mentality and strength and physicality goes, Liam is ahead of Alan that way. They're two different players, but they both have the same idea of if I'm going to have one of these numbers on my back, I'm going to take you down the field. I'm going to go play. So Liam can mix it. He got a lot of goals for us last year in the championship, coming from cornerback. He got one against Ballantubber. He got one against Pierce's. Probably should have got one in the semi-final as well against Nemo. I think he sort of hit a post. So just taking it to a different level and taking on his corner forward and saying, right, let's go play on my terms, which is a great asset to have in your defence.
Definitely, and a corner back on penalties as well.
Corner back on penalties.
Last year yeah.
There's no confidence issue there for sure. That's for sure. Yeah, there's no issue.
Right way to be. You're number 7 then.
The last guy is Damien Burke. He's actually Alan's first cousin. Damien played with Galway for probably 10 years as well, captain Galway. I think pound for pound, he was probably the best cornerback in the country for 2 or 3 years. My abiding memory of Damien in a Galway jersey is he hit Kieran McDonald on the shoulder in the middle of Pearse Stadium in a Connacht final and panned him, and I mean panned him out. Took the ball off and we went down the far side and got a goal. And it was probably the biggest roar, one of the biggest roars I've heard in Pearse Stadium. And in my Galway career, he literally smothered him. Damien went to Dublin at 17 or 18 to go to college, and he came back a machine. His conditioning and his level of training and his level of physicality was just enormous altogether. We played him a cornerback for years, doing man marking jobs, and he actually ended his career playing number 11. What we didn't realise was that Damien could kick points. So he left and right, and just he was a huge athlete, but you couldn't have a defence without him. So he was definitely up there with Fitzy and Mike Homer in his mentality, and again he was had a huge effect on me on the way he approached the game and the way he approached his training. He was just a professional in every aspect of it, and his performances mirrored his attention to detail off the field. So them 6 would take some serious beating now, I think, in any team, and I think they're guys who have performed at high level all the time, consistently. So it's some guys can come out and do it for 2 or 3 games, but very rarely you get guys that can do it every game. And
definitely
them 6 trust.
That back 6 you have there, and the keeper, like Damien Burke, you said there, another guy that can go up and kick scores.
Yeah.
And it's actually something that myself and Matty Donnelly talked about a few weeks ago. It's the, defenders being able to play football like the forwards can as well. Is that something that you think is, like, obviously really important in the game, in today's game?
It's key, and I think it's not even to play. It's to be able to think like a forward. They have to start when they get to the halfway line. There's no point being able to bring up to the halfway line and stop and lay off the ball. They have to know that if I run into this area, I can actually hurt the other team. They need to understand the game better than they ever did before. The day of playing fullback and just being a fullback is non-existent. It's going out the game, and I think we're going into a more fluid game of your number 14 probably has to be able to block the ball down now. He needs to be able to actually check a man and do a bit of tackling, whereas your number 3, if he gets through on goal, he needs to be able to finish. And that's where we're gone to now, and that's probably the model going forward. And I just hope that this mark and little bits and pieces are changing don't affect it too much, but because the games are gone so fluid. Tyrone, obviously, with Matty Donnelly being a great example of it. You could put any number on his back, it won't matter. Like, he's going to be all over the field, and he can probably do everything. He is left or he's right. He can tackle, he can hit, he can get nasty, he can be the nice footballer, he can be the opposite. And I think Dublin are probably the market leader in it, but I think everyone else is trying to do it. Tyrone are definitely been doing it for quite a while. Kerry are trying it, they definitely are, and I think Galway are coming closer and closer. So that's the style that's out there now at the moment, and it's definitely exciting to think about, and definitely something you'd be hoping that is being coached down the ranks to these kids coming up.
100%. Your midfield then, Gary, we'll move on to them.
Yeah, these two are inseparable. These two had to go together. So I've played with some fantastic players through Galway and Corofin, but these two have been a model of consistency together. So I've number 8 Ronan Steed and number 9 Dahi Burke. So I've been very fortunate to play with these two, and they've been a big part of making my game better at number 10. Ronan is the first cousin of my own, and I've played with him now since 2008 when he was only a minor. He came into the senior panel and left the minors into a county final and kicked 2 points. So we knew then we had something. And as for Dahi at this stage now was well known. The two of them dovetailed fantastic together. Ronan tends to play more ball than Dahi, but when Dahi's on the field, his numbers and stats and his breaking up the ball and his contribution is enormous. So them two together are a very fitting pair, and I'd fancy them against any other pair out there at the moment if they're on their game. So very happy to put those two in the midfield.
Spot on. As you said, they're a good partnership. One goes forward, one sits back. That sort of a.
They're both able to get on the score sheet. They're both able to defend, and that's what you want from your pair in the middle. And they like the battle as well. So we like to see that coming.
Yeah, perfect. So you've said already that you have yourself at number 10. So we'll go on to the number 11 and 12 then.
So number 11, I have a guy called Michael Farrer. So Michael he came in with Ronan in 2008. He's played a little bit with Galway, on and off, but he's been a key and central figure for us in Corofin. Mike played most of his football underage and fullback, a little bit of 6, and has moved up to number 11 now. If you want to win a kick out, you kick it to Mike. If you want to see how to tackle, you watch Mike. Mike has given me more assists, I'd say, over the last couple of years than anybody else, be it long or short passes, be it sneaky little hand passes out the back door, or whatever it is. He's just an all-round footballer, and he's as hard as nails as well, which is a compliment he'll enjoy if he hears this. But yeah, key components any team would have going forward, and another big game player. Bigger the game, the more chance you have of getting the most out of Mike. And he's been a key component, as I say, going for us over the last couple of years, and he's plenty young enough to do more damage, I hope, going forward. Yeah, so yeah, he's a good one. And then the next guy, again, I don't think needs too much introduction. It's Michael Donlan. Another guy who went into the Galway panel that gave me some time and gave me some help around settling into the situation. And even now, meeting the guy is just a breath of fresh air, an absolute change. But as far as on the field, football-wise goes, I don't know that I've met too many better than him. I know there's a slight comparison between him and Shane at the moment, but I don't think there is. I think Michael Donlan has still a bit on him, and hopefully Shane can get to those levels. But yeah, Michael Donlan was a machine. He played at 8, 9, 10, 11, but again, he was a bit of a Matty Donnelly in that he never, it didn't matter what number he was wearing, he was going to be everywhere, and he could pop up with 1-6, or he could pop up with 8 or 9 points, or he could pop up with 2 of the biggest tackles you ever saw. But a phenomenal footballer and a phenomenal person to have around any team or panel.
Spot on. Three spots left now, and I'm looking at it here. And as you said, a few guys now that don't need much of an introduction, and I think you can say it for the next 3 as well.
Yeah, these three don't need any introduction. These guys are household names for sure. The first guy I've played with since first year in Jarlath's, huge influence on my football career, huge influence on me personally as well. That's Michael Meehan. Michael, first evening I encountered him was probably at 12 years of age, started a training session in St. Charlotte's. He got a ball in midfield. It was like watching a bowling ball going over skittles, and then about 20 yards out, he nearly broke the crossbar and put it in the top corner, and everyone just froze. There was 100 kids out there waiting to go train, and this bullock came through the middle, and phenomenal. And then I think we went unbeaten in Jarlath's, and he was the key component of the whole lot of it. He was just phenomenal. And then from there on out, his career, how he didn't get an All-Star, and it's so unfortunate he didn't get a Celtic Cross, but he has his club medals, he's a couple of Sigersons, he has Hogan Cups, he has a lot of things, but a phenomenal footballer and professional in everything he did, and as I said, a huge leader in any dressing room he was in, even from an early age. He was fantastic.
Yeah, and he's got a few of the Jarlath teams now. He's definitely a good model to have for the Jarlath teams coming through.
Yeah, well, if you're going to get a Jarlath footballer that you want to get modelled on, then model yourself on Mike Meehan, because he was and is probably the standard bearer of what was in Jarlath's, and he's there now, and hopefully he can influence it to get back to the top, which will be great for everyone to see.
Spot on.
The next guy needs absolutely no introduction, Pádraig Joyce. So again, another guy that gave me good time when I went in as a young lad into the senior panel, and it's only now when I'm at my age that I realise how important those guys were. It wasn't like they were meeting me for cups of tea and hearing me sad stories. They were just simple things of training that if I was making mistakes, they gave me a word. Not always the nicest or kindest word, but it was a communication that I needed, and they were key to that. And I've kept up a good relationship with Pádraig over the years. What a player! He could do things and see things and control things that I haven't seen other players do. He could control games in club games. He was getting 10, 11, 12 points a game, and he was controlling every aspect of the game, and you thought you were going to get on top of him, you just weren't. And at that county level, he produced on the biggest days. Again, huge big game player. I think the bigger the game, the better you're going to get from Pádraig, and he did that in the 2001 Ireland final. I think he kicked 10 points off Darren Fair or something like that. Just freaking nature stuff.
Yeah.
And he was fantastic to play with. Just you could kick anything at him and it was sticking, and once he got it in, you knew good things were going to happen. So a fantastic guy to have around.
And he was one of the players, I'm sure, that he just had so much trust in, that like when you have your job done, you've got the ball up a certain distance. When you give it to Pádraig Joyce, you know there's only one place to go.
You just make sure you get him a good ball and you were fine. That was it. You weren't going to kick something along the ground to him. You were going to make sure it was a bounce in front. Otherwise, you were going to hear about it. But yeah, you just knew ball in hand he was going to do damage, or at the very least, he was going to bring somebody else into the game to do damage. He was just the total total football genius inside there, and he could make any forward line tick. A brilliant guy to have around.
And your last one then?
Yeah, the last guy I played with for the last 10 years or so, and in some ways I thought for years he was so underrated, the things he was doing, and then he got his all-star last year, year before, and I thought, yeah. But Ian Burke is the last guy I'm going to put in number 15. I suppose everyone knows about him now at this stage, but I suppose he's your trickerista, he's your little magista in the corner. He's not big, he's not overly daunting physically, but if he gets a ball, and when he gets a ball, he has timing, space, hands, feet. He recognises opportunities and rarely makes a mistake with his pass, and he just causes havoc everywhere he goes. I'd love to have put Martin Farrer in there with him, because them two together are just fantastic to play with, and the runs and the cohesion and the communication between them is just phenomenal. But saying that, I think having the other two boys in the full forward line with him would make it interesting as well.
Yeah, the work sound.
Yeah, they might be just decent. You'd have a hard job getting 3-man markers to deal with them 3 boys now. That's for sure.
Well, listen, Gary, that 15, not much more needs to be said about it. Apart from just the 15, though, there's probably a few guys that, if you had to bring them on now, I'm sure there's a few lads that you would.
Yeah, if I was given the opportunity.
So your apologies list, I suppose.
I have a lot of apologies. I suppose goalkeeper wise, Tom Healy was our 2015 club keeper, and he was with Galway as well in 2014-15 when we got back on top of Mayo for a while. He's a very, very talented guy, and could easily have put him in goal here. Martin Mack was another one. Martin McNamara was just finished up his senior career as I started, and I mean, I could easily have just dropped him in there and said, look, genius. And he is and was, and he's a superb coach. He's in with Galway now doing goalkeeping coaching, and what a great guy to have around. People like Sean Oak didn't get in. I just played a little bit with him towards the end of his career. I could easily have dropped him in there. Gizzy McGrath's another one. I've played with him for years. Could easily have dropped him in there. Joe Bergen in midfield wouldn't have been a bad shout. Another guy called Kieran Comer, who's on the 2001 All-Ireland final team as well, a huge player in our club. Could easily have dropped him in. You can go 3 or 4. It's Paul Clancy, Derek Savage, Nicky Joyce. Them guys didn't get a shout, didn't get pushed in there. Even the likes of Martin Farrer, Jason Leonard off our current team, they haven't got a shout in there either. And I don't think I'd be affecting the power of the team too much by putting them in. So the apologies list will be exceptionally long, but if we ever get
to do an A versus B there, no problem at all.
Just a little bit, just a little bit. If we do it again, we'll throw in the 15 as well. We put an A versus B the next time and make it really interesting.
100%. I'd go for that, definitely.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's. Oh, last question, captain.
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. That's a really good one. Mike Farrer.
Yeah,
just a quite unassuming, not going to be running shout in the dressing room, but he is going to produce and he is going to lead, and that's what I would expect. I could easily say Mike Meehan, I could easily say Alan Burke or Port Joyce, but I think for just quite unassuming and minds his own space, but gives off the right vibes, I'll give it to Mike Farrer.
Yeah, cause I suppose the captain doesn't have to do all the talking, they lead by example on the field as well.
That's all you want. Yeah, catch a hard ball when it's needed to be done, get a score when it's needed to be got. That's what you want from your captain. The rousing speeches thing doesn't do it for me. Banging tables doesn't do it for me at all.
Spot on. Listen, I think that wraps up the podcast now. Gary, thanks a million for joining me.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure, and thanks for having me.
And this is, as I said, now this is number 9. Number 10, hopefully I'll have someone sorted out for number 10 soon. So I'll just stop recording.